So we're celebrating 60 years since your ordination around now. Is it surprising to you that it's been 60 years?
Well, yes, I hadn't thought about it. 60 years. It makes me feel older.
We're all feeling older, aren't we?
Yeah.
Can you remember all that time ago? Can you remember what it felt like making the decision to offer to become a deaconess? Was it a really long process? Did it feel like a really big decision for you at the time?
Well, it was. It was totally different from anything I'd ever done. Speaking out and mixing with people.
Uh-huh.
I worked on a small poultry farm, and I couldn't really rest until I offered, actually.
Right.
It's one of those things that niggles at you.
Uh-huh. That's a good way of describing it.
It does, doesn't it? It niggles at you until you do it.
And so you offered, and you were telling me that at the time all the deaconesses in training were at Ilkley. That must have been quite something to be in quite a big number of people. It was.
As I say, it was all totally different from anything I'd ever experienced. We had a weekend there, as they chose candidates weekend.
Yeah.
And then I got a letter saying yes, I'd been accepted.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was totally different.
And how did you face that? Were you nervous? Were you excited?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I can't remember.
I mean, it sounds quite
like
scary.
Everything, really. You just do it, don't you? If you have to get on and do it.
You get on and do it because that's what you've been called to do.
It is, yes.
At the time, I know when I talk to Sylvie and others now, they would say at the time you were also making a commitment not to get married. Is that right?
Yes, that was part of it. Yes.
And did that feel like a really big decision as well?
No, I didn't really think about it all that much.
Uh-huh.
It must have been a big decision for some.
Yeah.
And I know some people who gave up their engagement to continue because if they had to, they'd have had to leave the order.
Right.
Which some did, which is right and proper.
Yeah. Some faced some really big decisions then, didn't they?
They did. I remember somebody coming from overseas and she had to make that decision while she was staying at the college.
And then from college, where did you go to?
My first appointment was in Leeds, centre of Leeds.
Uh-huh.
In the city centre, which was totally, again, contrary to what I'd lived.
From rural Lincolnshire to city centre Leeds.
I was in a small village brought up, small chapel.
Yes.
And then suddenly at Oxford Place in the middle of Leeds. That was part of my training, and the minister there was excellent to me.
I mean, it sounds like a daunting thing. We've just been looking at the story of Ruth in the Bible, and she left her homeland and went to Bethlehem with Naomi, but arriving in a brand new place and beginning to get to know people. Was it? Do you remember it being a scary time, a daunting time, or do you just
I don't remember much about it.
You just get on with it.
You just did it because you had to. That was what you were called to do.
Yes.
And of course, I'd done the 2 years training then.
Yeah. And you ended up in Leyland, of course. That was another new venture for you.
From Leeds, I got a letter saying I was appointed to Leyland in Lancashire, which was completely new again to me. And, you don't know. It was a lot of youth work, but not only youth work. I did a lot of visiting people and such like.
Yeah. I think you said to me you had to look it up on the map, and it wasn't on the map.
It wasn't, no. It was on the map, but it wasn't in the AA book, which I'd got because we had a car at home, and it wasn't in the AA book. I'd never heard of Leyland, except, when I thought about it, I saw it on some of the bus.
And you arrived at a time when the community centre, I think, was quite new, wasn't it? And there was a vision for starting youth work, and it was a big part of what you'd done.
Leyland was known at that time, very highly respected in Leyland for its youth work.
Absolutely.
And the clubland.
Yeah.
It was in its very nothing planned about a building then.
Yeah.
It was just, we met on the Friday night in the midst of the day school stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes, and this has been true looking at the story of Ruth in the Bible, sometimes it's only when you look back you can see how God's guided or God's been involved. When you look back at your time in Leeds or your time in Leyland, and you think, when I arrived I didn't know anybody, I was brand new. When you look back at the end of it, what sort of things did you find yourself thanking God for? Well,
the old when I accepted and offered for the order, you just offered, and I was backed up by my mum at home.
Yeah.
That made a big difference because she was a widower with 4 kids.
Yeah.
And you just got on with it, and you look back and you think, gosh, you just did it, and it's totally, as I say, totally different.
Uh-huh.
But God was there, and He, I was able to do it.
Sure.
Not of my own doing. I mean, I just did what I had to do.
And you felt the support of your mum. What do you think your mum felt about what you were doing?
Well, she supported me. She always did.
Yeah.
And I worked at home with her.
Uh-huh.
And it was a big, you realise afterwards how big a thing it is for what parents do for you.
Yes.
And she was left a widow when we were all little children.
Mm.
And it would be a big thing for her.
Of course. We were talking this morning when I saw you, when I delivered your certificate and your letter from the chair of district and all those goodies. We've been living through a very strange time, haven't we, Stella?
We have, yes.
And you live on your own.
Yes, well,
but you've still felt the support of the church in different ways, have you?
Well, yes, it's part and parcel of my whole life, really.
Uh-huh.
The church and the people in it. I suppose it's the people. In a way, I do know they need the building, but the building doesn't matter quite the same as people. But you wouldn't meet the people.
Yes.
And without the activities that we have at Leyland.
Yes.
But God is with us wherever we are. So He's here in my house. I suppose He's enabling me to just chat to you a bit.
He is.
I just presume God is in every part of my life.
He is.
Not just in a building at the church. So that is important to me.
Yeah.
It's it is always with me in everything.
Yeah, and that, those of us who know you well, Stella, it does shine through you. It does come to us through you, and we've got a lot to be thankful for your ministry and the ministry of those who are being ordained at the moment, just at the beginning of their adventure. Yeah, I don't know how you would answer a question like, what do you think the church should have learnt or might have learnt through this time?
Oh, He's in this with us. Yeah. And there will be whenever we come out, and we don't know what's going to happen.
No,
but He'll still be there.
And if somebody listening was thinking that they got this niggle that we talked about at the beginning that you can't avoid, you sense God's calling you to serve Him in some way. What would your advice be? What would you say to somebody who was just?
Well, you've got to deal with it, because otherwise you can't get on, can you?
That's a great thought. Yeah.
I mean, I it just niggled at me, and you sort of thought. I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever done, really, to offer for the order, and yet you just do it, and I find that it's just been there all the time.
Yeah. And you look back. You look back now over 60 years, and you're glad you did.
Well, I wouldn't have done any other, really.
Uh-huh.
No. No, it's been a good life. People are great, aren't they?
I think so, Stella, and you're one of them. You're one of them.
It's been a great privilege working, with people.